After the Revolution, people in both America and England counterfeited copper coins with reckless abandon. It was said that every ship that arrived from England carried kegs of underweight copper coins. These underweight counterfeits flooded America and significantly disrupted commerce. This was due to a concept called Gresham's Law, a monetary principle that states that bad money drives out good. Hoping to provide reliable coinage, a small group of influential Connecticut natives petitioned their state in 1785 for the exclusive rights to mint copper coinage. They hoped to produce high-quality coins of a consistent weight and design that would drive out the underweight counterfeits in conjunction with new state laws that would limit the importation of copper coins. Among them was Abel Buell, a master silversmith, engraver, and mechanical genius. As a young man, Buell was arrested for counterfeiting Connecticut notes. His punishment included being branded on the forehead with the letter F and having one of his ears cut off. Now reformed, Buell was to be the man behind the scenes who made the Connecticut Mint work. He made the mint's equipment and engraved the dies. Probably as a result of so many influential names on the petition, the legislation moved quickly, and by October of 1785, they had an exclusive right to coin copper for Connecticut for 5 years. The Company for Coining Coppers was born. Connecticut coppers were lawfully minted from 1785 to 1787, with some minted in 1788 and backdated to 87. All Connecticut coppers dated 1788 are the product of unofficial mints, though both authentic and contemporary counterfeits are collected equally today. The obverse features a man's bust, very similar to that of King George III on the British halfpenny. The legend reads Auctori Connect, meaning Authority of Connecticut. The portrait was changed to face left in 1786, possibly to differentiate the Connecticut coppers from British coins, though the reasoning isn't known for sure. Near the end of 1786, the armor on the bust was also changed to a draped toga. The reverse image of seated liberty is almost an exact copy of the reverse of the British halfpenny. The trident was replaced with a liberty cap, but otherwise, Britannia, the ancient Roman symbol of England, is virtually unchanged. The legend, Inde et Lib, is an abbreviation for the French phrase Indépendance et Liberté, which translates to independence and liberty. The entire goal of the Connecticut coppers was initially to combat counterfeiting, so design consistency was key. Initially, Abel Buell engraved each die by hand, but he couldn't work fast enough to keep up with the production demands. To continue with hand engraving, the mint would have had to hire additional engravers, resulting in less consistent designs and higher costs. Instead, Buell got creative. In 1785, he developed device punches, so major design elements could be stamped onto the dies. The year after, he developed a hubbing technique that was years ahead of its time. It created almost identical dies, but small details were sometimes lost when the image was transferred, and some areas had to be strengthened by hand. In addition, some small details, like the branch in Liberty's hand and the date, had to be individually punched onto every die. He abandoned the process in favor of punches, and it wasn't until 1837 that the U.S. Mint successfully adopted his hubbing technique. However consistent they tried to be, by today's standards, they were not. This has resulted in over 320 different known die varieties of Connecticut coppers, which allows for many different approaches to collecting them. A die variety is just as it sounds, a difference in the dies used to produce the coin. Some were first cataloged in Sylvester S. Crosby's Early Coins of America, but the primary resource that systemized the naming of varieties for Connecticut coppers is The State Coinage of Connecticut by Henry Miller, published posthumously in 1920. A variety can be differentiated by something as drastic as the size of the heads in the 1787 small head and mutton head varieties, or minor misspellings, such as Octobi or Octopi instead of Octori. There are plenty of other interesting varieties, such as the horned bust, where a die break created an odd extrusion from the bust's shoulder. The African head and laughing head are two well-known portrait variations. All of these major varieties are included in the Red Book. For the ambitious, compiling a set of all the different varieties can be attempted. Although several collectors have acquired over 300 varieties, no one has ever gathered them all. By the end of 1786, the Connecticut Mint was struggling. The equipment was breaking down, and money was needed to continue operations. Many of the original owners sold their shares to a man named James Jarvis, who was willing to invest in the mint. By the summer of 1787, Jarvis owned over 50% of the company, and only 3 of the original shareholders remained, including Abel Buell. The original idea for the Connecticut Mint was to reduce counterfeiting and help improve the state of the economy, but Jarvis had a very different plan. As the probable ratifying of the Constitution loomed close on the horizon, he knew states would soon lose the authority to mint their own coinage. Jarvis had his eye on a much bigger prize, the federal coining contract, which he was able to procure. With this, the focus of the Connecticut Mint turned to making a profit as a private federal mint. Unfortunately for Jarvis, he failed to meet the delivery schedule of coins to the federal government, and the contract was void. Thereafter, in 1788, Jarvis took all the remaining federal copper and made Connecticut Coppers with it, which he backdated to 1787. An investigation into the mint was initiated by the Connecticut legislature in 1789, but by that time, Abel Buell and some others were safely in England or moved to other states. Although the investigation determined there was no wrongdoing, it did learn that Abel Buell gave minting equipment to his son, Benjamin Buell, before he departed for England. It's believed that Benjamin later sold the equipment and remaining Connecticut dies to Captain Thomas Machen of New York. Machen operated the largest and most successful counterfeiting operation in America. He used the old Connecticut dies and equipment to make thousands of authentic-looking but underweight Connecticut coppers. It's ironic that a mint that was initially opened to rid the community of counterfeits ended up contributing to the problem. If you'd like to learn more about the Connecticut Coppers, some of the best references are The State Coinage of Connecticut by Henry Miller from 1920, and Abel Buell and the History of the Connecticut and Fugio Coinages by Christopher McDowell from 2015. In addition, the Colonial Coin Collectors Club, known as C4, is a group of collectors interested in colonial coinage. They have multiple yearly meetings in conjunction with large coin shows, have a colonial reference lending library, and publish a quarterly newsletter. For more information about becoming a member, visit colonialcoins.org.